morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here on another episode of The Full-Time Investor. I'm Mandy Brenham. You might be able to recognize I'm not in my home studio. I am sitting in the big city of TO today, feeling the excitement still of an evening out with a well-respected investor, friend of mine, fellow guest on the show, Rochelle Laflamme. She won an award last night at the Women of Excellence in Toronto. Was grateful to be part of that. And here I am with the beauty of technology, being able to go live with my show here where I am. And excited to have Mr. Hamilton / Erwin Szeto on my show as a guest this weekend. You are one of the first podcasts that I ever came on, and certainly the person that I do hold to the one that hashtagged me the JV Queen. So thank you for that piece of history that you'll hold for a long time. So Erwin, you've been an investor, started off as a novice investor 2005. You started being, you were a novice agent come 2017. You've been doing some coaching and groups starting in 2014. And recently you just launched, the version probably 3.0 or 4.0 of your group and various things called I Win in 2018. What's next for you?
I don't even know. This stock stuff has been fun for me. It's not like I'm gonna change what I do with my real estate. It's just where I'm taking some time out to do something that I'm enjoying, which is specifically selling stock options. But yeah. We'll probably take that to another level. We're getting a lot of interest in that, but not much else really changes. The podcast will continue to go. Our iWin meetings will continue to go. We'll continue to grow our real estate portfolio, but probably much slower. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So you know what? There was like a million different ways we could have taken our conversation today, but I wanted to talk about networking and the power of networking, mm-hmm. different groups, seminars, mm-hmm. knowing that you've had many. That's where we met. Mm-hmm. What would you say to a new investor starting out who maybe has never gone to an event or mm-hmm. networked with like-minded people? What's the importance to a new investor of that?
I think specific to real estate investor networking groups is people are very sharing in this industry. I'm not sure what it is, but I've actually heard feedback from people outside of our industry saying that the same is not true with other industries. People aren't nearly as sharing. People aren't nearly as competitive. Obviously, there's things that you should still keep private. For example, if you have a hot deal, you still shouldn't share your address with folks. But what the beautiful thing about real estate is, I remember when the first time I went into a room with real estate investors. This is like Real Estate Investment Network back in 2000. I could not believe the number of millionaires were in that one room. Like there was probably 100 millionaires in that room, same room I was in. Didn't cost me that much to be there. Something like $200 a month, something like that, plus tax. And where else do you find a room like that? In anywhere in Canada, let alone Toronto. And most of these people are there to cheer for you and share and give tips and give advice. And yeah, that's, and then once you're around people who are doing it, you'll believe you can do it too.
Yeah. Do you think it's intimidating? I have a mentee group, and mm-hmm. A gentleman went to his first meeting on his own last night, and he said mm-hmm. he didn't shake any hands, but yet mm-hmm. you're in the presence of. Mm-hmm. Is it how does a new investor walk into one of those, right. potentially an introvert, and start to meet people?
Right. I was no different. I'm a huge introvert. Actually, when I attended these meetings, it was my wife who's my ex-wife. She was the one that was the person who loved to chat with people. And I just really hung in the background, didn't really talk to people very much either. So I've been down that path. But just understand, like, no one's there to bite. Everyone's friendly. And if you're new to something, then hopefully you've already read Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and then just be there to provide value. Like I remember hosting a meeting and had a gentleman say, "I have nothing to contribute." We were in a small breakout group of 5-6 people, and he said, "I have nothing to contribute." I'm like, "I don't believe you. What do you do for a living?" "I'm a private eye." I'm like, "I'm a landlord. You don't think I want to know what my tenants are doing who did like a midnight move?" How do you track people down?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People often undervalue what they already know, and often there's something that you know already that other people don't know. And even, for example, yesterday there was a U.S. Fed meeting, U.S. Federal Bank meeting. As an investor in both stocks and real estate, I care about what's going on with interest rates in the U.S. I didn't even know, and this young guy told me, like, "Oh, right, I should probably pay attention." Right? So everyone underestimates what they know, and so don't be afraid. Ask questions. Be there to give value, especially if you're new. Think from a position of giving value. How can you offer someone value?
Yeah.
Right?
And for a coach that's come out, I think they're people that have lots of questions sometimes devalue that they think they have more questions than they have answers. But always have to keep people in mind to be able to say somebody wants to answer your questions. Somebody is learning. Somebody is regurgitating to be able to say, "Oh my gosh, I just went through that same thing." So you're actually giving somebody an opportunity to be able to coach or share or teach or pass on this knowledge, that there's always got to be somebody that's just gone through what you've done. You know, the first time that I went to a networking meeting was Gary McGowan's meeting in Newmarket. And of course, there's Andrew Brennan, who said, "Yeah, I invest in Simcoe County." And he came over and he gave me a tip for a property that I was buying. And I went out, I said, "Hey, you guys are going out for drinks. Can I come out with you?" Right? So it was certainly took something to be able to ask these guys. That was the turning point for me to be able to see these guys outside and talk real estate. Still, I always say that was the best $70 I ever spent on beers and wings, was getting to know these two people. And they were like, "Yeah, of course you can come." So you're right. The millionaires in the room, they just open up and they share. Got nothing to hide. Yeah.
Nothing to hide.
So
Especially if
what's
you're a good
next to
person.
me?
Especially if you're a good person, people will be usually happy to help you. Right? That's been like my path. People realize I'm trying to do the right thing, trying to help people. I have my wife and I have our own registered charity. Right? At the end of the day, we're here to serve the world. So
yeah. So so there's a new investor. They just walked into one of these networking meetings. What is it that, what if they don't even know what kind of portfolio they want to build? What kind of advice? Because sometimes you can go in there and like the group that I'm part of, I call them like kids in candy stores. And they were like, "Oh, I'd like a rent to own, and I'd like to flip, and I'd like to do this." And they're not sure. They almost get a little bombarded. What's a way to kind of be able to dial in and really know what it is you're looking for?
Right. So this is one of my favorite pieces of advice to give, and it's not even my own. Don Campbell told me this. He said, "Find someone you align with, and then do what they do. Learn from them, use the same people that they use, and just repeat." Right? Because if you come into my world, we do a lot of duplexes, legal duplexes in Hamilton, and for the more aggressive folks, we'll do student rentals. And that's what works primarily in our city, right? Other strategies work. It's just different levels of difficulty, right? But if you fall into my world, there's a pretty good chance I can turn you into a successful investor without you having to know much, right?
Yeah.
And you'll learn along the way. I'm not suggesting like ignorance, but we've done a lot in Hamilton and St. Catharines. We pretty much have a client on every neighborhood. We have at least a couple clients in every neighborhood who have rental properties. So we know what their rents are. We know what their tenant profiles are. We have a team of contractors. Anything that you need, we can provide. Just come in. If you come into our community, you're gonna be able to repeat the same results that we have. And we've done pretty well.
Yeah. When I went to the mastermind that you were part of as an amazing guest, my takeaway, and it wasn't spoken, but it was the feeling that I had, was that success leaves clues. Here's this high-powered group of people who were all having the same financing conversation, and they were all discussing how they were financing. And I thought, why would I even question financing differently if a powerful group of people are all financing this way? Don't reinvent the wheel. It's already been invented.
Yeah.
So and I remember my mentor sitting across the table, and I was like, "Well, that's fine for you to give advice because you have 30 properties and growing. but what about me? I'm just starting out. And he was like, no, I'm giving you the advice because I've made all the mistakes to be able to get to 30 properties. So when an investor says, this is the person you should finance with, or this is the potential area that you should be investing in, or this is a strategy that I think works, listen to them. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, it's not necessary. I find, I'm a guy, so I'll throw guys under the bus. I find guys are usually the worst at this. Like, oh no, I got this. I know better than those guys. I got this. Like, oh, you don't recommend this contractor? I have a good feeling about them. I'm gonna hire them. Like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm hiring them because they got like a 15% discount. Yeah, they don't. They can do just as good as work as your guy. I'm gonna go this way, and then things don't go well.
Yeah. Or I drive by a house and it's been listed with an agent now for a year. Bought 6 months prior to that. It was a house that I had looked at, and these people snapped it up. I don't know who they are. I don't know where they were from. But the point is that they're trying to flip a house. I knew the market was not a flipping market. And now aren't they flipping crazy that they tried to flip a house that they're still holding on to?
Right.
So if there's not other people doing what it is you're looking to do, then don't be the first to go into an industry sometimes.
Yep. Like for folks who are interested in flipping, that is a very niche strategy, and you need to be able to. Actually, it's a very common saying. You make money on the buy. Absolutely true for flips.
Yep.
You have to. It's often the beginner that makes the mistake is they want to buy something that's not offensive to them, as in they won't buy the ugly house.
Right.
Right? You pretty much have to buy the ugly house in order to make a flip work. Right. In order to get a discount, so it's a property that the bank won't finance, things like that. You have to solve a big enough problem in order to make money on a flip. Yeah. And a lot of beginners don't get that. They just want easy. Yeah. Like, I'll just buy a house off MLS that's at market value, and then I'll somehow magically create value, whatever they saw on television, and it doesn't go well.
No, and I also think that it's important to be able to ask not just necessarily, what are other people buying, but what are other people's exit strategies? Because, I've met people and I was like, hey, you know what? You just bought a property in St. Catharines. What did you pay for it? $450,000 is what the guy said. And I swallowed thinking, okay, a little higher than what I wanted. And he's like, I said, so what's he doing? He's converting it. And I said, are you planning on refinancing it? No, I don't need to refinance it. See? Difference in our exit strategies. Right. I know that I need to be able to, I choose to want to be able to refinance it in a short period of time. So I'm looking for that lift. He was not looking for that lift. He was quite happy with the neighborhood, the property, the condition, the rents that he was going to get. He was not looking to be able to take that money and do it again. So, it depends sometimes if somebody's like, if they've got a flip and they don't sell it, they're like, whatever, I'll just rent it. Like I've heard Ryan Carr say that, and he's just like, I just rented it, because he has a plan to the plan to the backup plan to the backup plan. Well, sometimes these flippers or whatever, they don't think about what's their exit strategy, and so they don't have as many options for an exit as say a Ryan would. There are some successful flippers out there. What do you do when you investor? Do you say, is there a progression that you would say, yes, you're saying you find somebody that resonates, but what if somebody says to you, I have $100,000 and I can qualify for a mortgage? Do you give advice to somebody to be able to say, what would be your guidance?
I put them, our guidance would not be that different. We would show them some recent deals that we did, including renovation budgets. Yep. So $100,000 is probably pretty tight for the stuff that we do, because often we spend 90, 100K for a full renovation, because again, often we are buying something that needs a lot of work. Yeah. Right. So here I just said the renovation budget is what you've got as your as your investment capital. So we're just realists, right? Yeah. So often we have to tell them you're going to have to go find some more money. Yeah. But it's not like the old days where we could put, like years ago, like back in 6, we could basically do 0 down. We could basically do 5% down, and they would give a lot of that money back to us,
Right.
which was essentially 0 down. And also, like, my first property was $154,000 in downtown Burlington, right? It's very different now. Nothing's gotten easier. My point being is, I would just be honest with somebody. I don't know if that's. I personally wouldn't be comfortable with only 100 grand. Like, what if something happens, right? I'm dealing with a boiler issue right now. I'm getting prices between $8,000 and $11,000, right? If you only have 100 grand, I am well past. I take my renovation budget and I add 30%.
Yeah,
Right?
for all the contingencies that come up. We had a flood in one of ours.
Yeah.
I think that's a video. I was like, oh my God, add that on.
Yep. Whatever quote I get, I'm pretty sure it's gonna take longer and it's gonna be more money.
Yeah.
And usually it's reasonable stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's not my contractor's fault that the boiler died, right?
No, it wasn't my contractor's fault that the sewer collapsed. It was actually perfect timing because we did it. It was an unfinished basement, and but yeah, is it an extra $18,000 to be able to get all of this done and whatever? Yeah, it was expensive, but it is what it is. Perfect timing. And I say that to people who are looking to attract joint venture partners, and I say, well, how much are you looking to attract? Well, I'd like to attract somebody with $100,000, and this exact conversation. 100,000 isn't enough.
No, it's not enough.
And so we need to continue to grow how much we're asking for, which really is a personal worth thing as well. So we're talking about networking. We're talking about going to these groups. And there's this, we need to learn, here we are in the real estate industry, but there's this aspect of learning more than just real estate. What are some other ways and other types of training and courses that you do or that you would recommend to a new investor to make sure that it's just not all real estate?
Right. So Omar Khan, who I met at the Real Estate Investment Network, he's the one that's gotten Larry and I. Does Larry talk about stock options?
Oh, I need to have Larry outside the show. So again, everybody, Larry, my producer, he's in the background, loves it. But the Pokeroo needs to come outside here sometime soon.
Isn't Larry watching? Katie, you can just hop in at any time. But anyways, both Larry and I, like you mentioned, 100 grand. Like to knowing what I know today, I would suggest to that person that they learn how to sell options, just like Larry and I are doing, in order to grow their portfolio, grow their investment capital, in order to buy more property. Because that's how our instructor had taught us. That's exactly what they did. He was selling options in order to make enough income, $50,000, $80,000. Used to be cheap. These are old numbers. $50,000, $80,000, and go buy a house with it, and then repeat. Right, make another $50,000, $80,000, enough for a down payment, and go buy another property. So that's what I would suggest to someone with $100,000, and that's what I learned recently. And both Larry and I took a course on it just recently. I know Larry. I remember talking to Larry on the last day about how even though he had more experience than I did, but you don't know what you don't know. And remember, like, I threw guys under the bus. Us guys are the worst, right? Often we're not willing to spend to invest to learn, and now both of us, like, our eyes are open, like, to so much more. And that goes to your networking conversation as well. There will be a lot of people who will be trying to do you harm, that I find at networking meetings. There will be people that will take your money for less than ideal things. But also, I believe that you have to have an open mind for someone like an Omar comes along and has to me, what I consider a low risk strategy, very reasonable strategy for me I strongly believe I will be making 6 figures with the same strategy that Omar teaches.
Yeah.
So, and it complements real estate well. Like, you're doing the real estate, Larry's doing the stock options, just like I am. Like, I think it's a marriage. It's a marriage made in heaven. Like, we were talking about cash flow before.
Yeah. You talked about us being the brake and the gas pedal. And I think it's okay to recognize that, in certain industries or certain strengths, look at Larry. Larry's the gas pedal on this. Although I'm still saying to him, I'm like, can I give you more money? Can I give you more money? If we refinance, can I give you more money?
Right.
We're still like, there's still a balance, but
Right.
he's like, oh, you want to talk real estate? Go talk to my wife.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, that's a Larry thing. You got to talk
Right.
options with him, and he's good to do it over there.
Right.
For sure.
Like anything in this learning curve, there's no reason that you both have to learn the same skill necessarily.
Yeah.
Like for example, my wife's an accountant. So I basically have a wall for anything accounting. meaning my brain's already full. I'm starting to forget people's names. So like a glass that's full. If you add more, some pours out. So right now I'm losing people's names. So I purposely don't learn any accounting. And just allow that to be my wife's domain, so I can just go across the hall and ask a question. I can WhatsApp her a question about accounting, or when we're driving the car, I can ask a question about accounting. But purposely, I don't spend any time in that area. Like I don't need to learn it, and I believe in delegating as much as possible too. For example, it's a nice day outside. I have never touched my lawnmower. I haven't touched a lawnmower in 8 years. I delegate that. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, I want to talk about that because, like, we got into this business for real estate, not to have real estate. We got into this for cash flow and to get freedom.
Woo!
Right?
I think that's so important.
Exactly. And then with our real estate and now stock options, all those profits go to pay for stuff that gives us more freedom. Right? Yeah. Like my business pays for my nanny. Right? My businesses afford me cash flow to hire a landscaper, things like that. And just think it. And then I think for the beginner, they need to think about these things because it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows in real estate or stock options. There's going to be hurt. Like I make no, absolutely, there's going to be hurt. But you have to look at what it gets you, right? Like for me, like I can sleep well at night knowing that my kids will be set up quite well. They won't have to go into debt for university. They won't have to go into debt to buy their first property. All those sorts of things. Like to me, that's a huge weight off of my shoulders and lets me sleep at night.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. And what I wanted to say about the education, and yes, we're real estate and we're, looking at various different things. One of my favorite sayings is you have to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And, for me, my job is full-time real estate investor, but that doesn't mean that I only have to go to real estate investing groups. That's not, when I have my coach, we don't really talk real estate. We talk business. We talk personal issues, and so you're asking somebody if you want to go into a room. There was just a post on a forum recently, and they're like, "I have no money, but I'd like to attract a joint venture partner." And so for me, I'd say, go and be the best communicator that you know. Go and figure out how to talk to people. There's win friends and influence people. But it's that kind of education that gets people to be able to attract their first financial partner. It doesn't mean you have to have money, but what do you have and how are you connecting with these people? So, being able to bust, financial fears and mindset shifts to be able to say, if all you can ask for is $100,000 or that's all you have, that's what you perceive you can attract. But you have to, how do you now grow yourself so you can say, you know what, when I walk into a room now, I can say I'm looking for somebody with $10 million because I'm bringing $10 million worth of value now. And you have to be able to grow that worth to be able to get there. So it's sometimes outside of the real estate world. But that's also really important too. You want to make sure that you're getting educated on all areas, not just one.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, this is a business. Have you had Rachel Oliver on the show?
No, she's on my list. Rachel, watch out for a call. No.
Like her business is real estate at the back end, but the front end is pretty classical, good business and digital marketing, right? That stuff isn't taught anywhere in real estate groups.
Yeah.
There's some groups that actually do. I know one that actually does teach those things. But if you want a next level, like a Rachel Oliver, and be able to do like 300 rent-to-owns, that's how you do it, right? She's obviously studied digital marketing from somebody, and that's what's other than being good people and good managers of their business, that's what's been a key piece to what sets them apart.
Yeah, she's just a beautiful person inside and out as well. So it's great. There's another one, Rasna. I just see Rasna coming on. It was great to see you, Rachel, in Ottawa. Yeah, you're making your way around. But what do they say? If you're a jerk and you have $1 million, you're just $1 million jerk.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to make sure that you're, when you're going to any kind of networking meeting, that you're showing up as your authentic self, and just make sure that it's the kind of person that you want to be able to show up to in a room if you were the only ones showing up.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got an event coming up, and I would love to be able to hear your excitement and be able to share that with the audience about what's going on. So from the creator, tell us about this event that's coming up.
Kind of like everything we talked about. We talked about real estate. We talked about stock options. We talked about business. So the vision was I've always wanted to do an event, but I wanted to do it, in my opinion, the right way. Let's cut out the BS. What do people really actually need to know about building businesses, how to invest in real estate, and how to invest in stocks? Because to be honest, not many people are talking about this stuff. A lot of people, like I said, are trying to sell you things, and they often will try to just sell you what's sexy, versus we are so unsexy. This whole idea started with trying to do an event for like 30 people. Like you said, we were thinking too small. Then we thought, hey, let's do an event for like, a couple hundred people. We'll hire someone from Dragon's Den. And then again, are we thinking too small? And then we found out Grant Cardone was available. He had availability for the time that we needed. And like, that's 10x thinking.
Yeah.
So then we already had ideas with great speakers in mind. We have like Tom and Nick Karadza, who literally from their basement floor began a business from nothing, and now they have an 8-figure business. This year, this past 8 figures, and they've been named Growth 500 for the 5th time in a row.
Wow!
So these guys are legit as AF. Marianne Gillespie is a Forbes Council coach. So you're talking about coaches, right? Forbes Council. So Forbes magazine has screened her to be one of the top in the world. So she's speaking as well. And then we have people like Pierre-Paul Turgeon, brilliant educator in the space of multifamily. We have Russell Westcott, JV Jedi. You're talking about how I coined names. He actually credits me for coining that nickname for him. Yeah. I'm just my mind is just kind of crazy. You don't want to look inside. And these things come out.
Other people see in us what we don't see yet. So you're a voice for what we've been repressing. So thank you.
Yeah.
From everyone.
Welcome. And then myself and Cherry, we've like Cherry is funny. Honestly, it's kind of funny. She is way more in demand than I am. She's getting flown out and paid as a speaker all over Canada. Just 2 weeks ago, she was flown out to Edmonton to speak to like 300 realtors, right? But yeah, and
she's
of course,
brilliant.
Yeah, she's brilliant because one of the things that got me into real estate investing was the explanation by Robert Kiyosaki, how the government basically wants us to be entrepreneurs and investors. And so it's very logical if you just understand what the tax incentives are and the treatment of corporations and capital gains. It just makes a lot of sense to be an investor, be an entrepreneur. So Cherry will be sharing those sorts of things that people don't necessarily know about, like investing in corporations, again, tax incentives, but the government, small business tax is like 15%, right? Again, I'm not an accountant. I've been instructed not to talk about accounting by a certain somebody, and myself. I have quite a few millionaire clients. And multimillionaire clients. I plan on adding to that. Hopefully, get to that to a number of 100 or so in the next few years. We're very good at what we do. And then of course there's Grant Cardone, who is our keynote speaker. He is the most in-demand speaker right now in all the world, pretty much. We talk about multiple streams of income. His businesses total 117 million US in revenues, and his real estate company. We talk about multifamily. We talk about real estate. His company has $1.2 billion assets under management. So, and he's a heck of a motivational speaker, heck of a salesperson, communicator. You're talking about people. If you're shy, you need to know how to communicate. And Grant actually talks about when he was 25 and he was a horrific salesperson. He hated himself. He hated his job. And really the problem was more about how he just didn't know how to do it. And I was no different. I was that shy guy in the back of the room, in the corner of the room, not talking to anybody. Really, I just didn't know how to communicate. And that's a really brilliant advice that you gave. Thanks, Larry.
Grant Cardone.
Yeah, he's big time. I'm actually flying down to meet with him on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interviewing him for my podcast.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then websites. The website's wealthhacker.ca. I believe you have your own promo for for the fans of your show.
I think Larry has it there. It's for 10% off tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think it'd be a great way for people to be able to go meet like-minded people, hear different streams of income options that they might be able to have, be able to invest their money. Whether they want to be active investors or passive investors or business owners, take it to the next level.
Yeah, because I honestly think the problem with people, especially Canadians, I think people in general, why they haven't made more money is because they haven't been taught. They've been sold too many things. Just think, who's the first financial expert that people are put in front of? Whoever's at their bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, good. Actually, that's even better. If your parents weren't rich, how good is their advice?
Yep.
Right. And then the next person you often put in front of is someone at the bank.
Yeah.
Are they rich? You know, I remember I was having a conversation at one of the big banks. One of their financial advisors was telling me, "Oh yeah, we have this new fund. It's really exciting. It's this latest emerging economy. We focus a lot on Japan. Like Japan is the world's third or fourth largest economy. They're hardly emerging.
Yeah.
And this is advice I'm getting.
I worked for our financial advisor, and Larry and I had done well up until this point. And she was like, "Wow, I've never had young clients. You guys are doing so well." And we were, we were still, Larry and I, just the young version of growing. And I get there, and it's RSP season, and she was doing her first loan for her own RSP. She had 0 RSPs, and she was taking a loan to be able to buy RSPs. I quit the next week because I had just was like, I had her on a pedestal. So I busted a bit of a paradox that I'd created. I created it. She didn't. To be able to say that she was giving us this advice for us to be able to grow financially. And we were surpassed her in that area. And I thought, I can't take your advice anymore. I need to go and find new people to be able to surround myself with. Yeah.
That's actually a really good point. Because when we're talking about like networking and getting advice from people, especially you don't know, dig deeper. Ask to see what's behind the scenes, especially if they're trying to sell you something, there's money involved. Like ask to see. Like I honestly will open up my app in front of people and show them my live trading account. Like, look, I'm up 5.6% in 5 weeks. I've collected over $1,000 in cash, right? And the same with real estate. I'm that's why I have my own meetings, so you can talk to my existing clients.
Yeah.
Right? You want to know how it is to work with us? I think it's actually easier for them to explain it to you than it is for me to explain it to you.
Yeah.
And then let's go on the road. You want to go see my house? Let's go see my house. Right? Let's walk around it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or you're talking the talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And apparently a lot of people don't do this. One of my marketing people was telling me how they've been turning down financial planners as clients because they don't even practice what they preach. They don't even invest in what they sell.
Yeah.
Like we only sell what we invest in.
True, right?
Right.
A gentleman at a networking meeting, and he was going on about this property and how it had like $2,000 cash flow. And again, I was like, okay, let's peel the skin off the onion here. And I was like, awesome. Who's your lender on that? And he was like, oh, well, I don't have a lender. It's a student rental, and nobody would give me money. And I was like, well, duh. If you had a mortgage and you were paying $1,500 of your $2,000 to a mortgage, you would have the normal amount of cash flow. And he's like, well, why would I want to do that? I said, so you can take that $400,000 and go buy 2 or 3 more properties, all leveraged at the same amount, so that you can continue now to grow on different levels. But, he was just like, look at me, I've got a property at $2,000, and everybody's feeling lesser then because they can't find $2,000 a month cash flow. And you're like, wait a minute here, let's compare apples to apples.
Yeah. So, fair.
Yeah.
And that's all over social media. People overhyping what they do. Peel the onion. Don't believe what you hear. Ask questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see all these people talking about Airbnb, and I don't know if their numbers are net of HST, for example. right?
I remember asking somebody, I'm like, none of your numbers included the furnishings. How much did it cost you to put furnishings in?
Yeah,
She's like,
right,
oh, $20,000. You're like, well, where is
right,
that in your purchase plus
right,
improvements?
right.
It
And
wasn't there. So the little things, but you know what,
yeah,
Erwin, I value your knowledge. I value your sharing and your openness to be able to, you know, if there's a question, you are one of those people in the room that's approachable and that will, you know, give of yourself to an answer. And it's no different than having you on as a guest today. So thank you for clearing your schedule and being able to be here. I like that my show's at the same time every week, and it honestly just kind of holds everybody to this time. It's like Mandy's time, Thursdays at 11 o'clock. So thanks for being our guest today.
thank you, Mandy.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Watch on here. There will be a link for your discounted tickets. If you haven't got your tickets to Wealth Hacker yet, certainly go ahead and get those. And I look forward to seeing everybody next. Maybe, maybe not. Where's my lair bear? Maybe it's not time to end and we can still do some more talking because that's what we do.